This month of October marks the 2 year mark that I've been watching MGTOW content. I think we've all seen that slowdown of core content that used to be made back in the day. I think today it's inevitable that you're going to come across a PUA-esque styled video or mindset. What I found interesting about this type of content is it all sounds very logical. It sounds rational. It sounds like a decent approach to dealing with this situation with women. It's almost looked at as some type of mathematical equation. One of the variables in this equation is a woman, and her value is not always constant. It's not always consistent. She is irrational. Her behavior can change on a dime. Her moods change within seconds. Even with all this MGTOW knowledge, you will never be prepared for every situation that you're going to be involved in with a woman. To make a long story short, this type of content has made me think of my past history in dating. I've been in long-term relationships for the past 10 years or so I don't really know where to begin with that much content. So I'm just going to talk briefly here about some of my horror show dating experiences in my past. Most of the women that I've dated in the past had this common theme to them. Although their personalities were very different, one of the things that they all shared in common was none of them really had a car. If they did have a car, it was very unreliable, and I always had to go to them. They never really came to me. I dabbled in online dating when it was in its infancy, so I think most men, including myself, kind of went into it very naively. I think 100% of the time, the photos that they would give out did not resemble them in real life. It was always like from 5 to 10 years ago, when they were 20 pounds lighter. I remember talking to this one girl who was beautiful picture online. And we finally met up, and she looked very similar to the picture, but she looked ugly for some reason. I couldn't figure it out. Well, she eventually told me that she posted her twin sister's picture instead of her own. While they looked very similar, I obviously was dating the ugly one. And I think out of all the women I've dated, I think she had one of the most lucrative jobs. She was a phlebotomist. And every single other woman that I've dated, they barely had enough money to pay rent. They was working crap jobs. Another girl that I went out with just a few times was a girl that worked at a pet store. At the time, I had a dog, and I went in. I saw this girl working there, and I instantly attracted to her. I didn't have the guts to talk to her at the time, so I kept coming back to the store to see if she was working or not. She was actually a dog trainer, so we set up a time, and I brought my dog in, and we did this little training exercise, and at the end of the exercise, I asked her out, and she started blushing. She seemed to be extremely flattered. Although she agreed to go on these dates with me, she was still living with her ex, so I think we both knew that it wasn't going anywhere. Another girl that I remember dating was this girl that I met online. We saw each other for about a week or so. Again, her pictures online, she looked fantastic, but in person she was at least 20 to 30 pounds overweight. She had this lazy eye that I didn't notice in the pictures, but I saw past that, and at the time I thought it was going to work between us because we shared this passion of music together. She actually was a DJ for a little while for a radio station. One of the real odd things about this girl was she was a maniac when she was kissing. We was making out. She was just making out with me like she was trying to get the antidote. You know what I mean? She was just like all over me, practically tearing my clothes off. But she had this hang up where she would not have sex. I mean, many times it got right to that point and she just cut me off, and it was just this real odd situation. But that almost wasn't even her major flaw to me. One of the most strangest things that I ever experienced with a woman was I took this girl out to eat a few times, and she would order, doesn't matter what she ordered to drink, it was either soda or water. She would let out this belch after drinking. The very first time I heard her do it, we was in a restaurant, and she just, after she got done drinking, she just let out this belch from hell. It was so loud that most of the people in the restaurant looked over at our table, and she was extremely embarrassed, like it's never happened to her before. But I noticed after every single drink or sip that she did, she belched like this guttural, deep belch. I mean, I think it would put Burt Freeman to shame. No lie, she was disgusting. So the next time I took her out to eat, I kind of observed her while she drank, and she wouldn't purse her lips to the water. She would just open her mouth and just drink water and air at the same time, and it would create this huge belch after every drink. How do you not have that control over your body? How do you not go through life without noticing that you're doing that? So I totally forgot her name. I'm just going to call her the Burp Girl. I'm going in no particular order here. The next woman that I dated was the only woman that was actually older than I was by a few years. She seemed to have her shit together. She was a teacher. She had a decent job. She had her own place. And we dated for about a month. So it took me a little while to see the faults in her. And I think, as with most women, she was obsessed with cats. One of the little first red flags with her, I remember this one time we went out to eat one night. We had a few drinks after, and we went back to her place, and we're both laying on the floor, laughing, having a good time. We started horsing around a little bit, and I started to tickle her, and I guess she didn't like to be tickled because she punched me right in the face almost as hard as she could, and I saw stars and my nose was bleeding. I thought she broke my nose. And she's telling me that I don't like to be tickled. I was in this daze. I just couldn't believe what had happened, and that kind of ruined the night. I kind of went home after that. And towards the end of that relationship, she actually admitted herself into a mental hospital. She had an addiction to sleeping pills and antidepressants, and she was all screwed up over that. I actually went to visit her while she was in the hospital. Her parents came, and all these people around us had some very serious problems. And you're sitting there for an hour or two, and you're just very uncomfortable, and I just wanted to get out of there. I kept saying to myself, what am I doing? What am I doing here? And we were together for about a month, and I just think I was with her long enough to see her mood changes. She wasn't bipolar, but she was very close. Another girl that I went on a date with, we talked for 6 months online. She would never show me what she looked like, but we had awesome conversations. We talked on the phone. We emailed practically every single day. This went on for like 6 months, and I was like begging her, can you please meet up with me? I'm dying to go out with you. Let's go do something. So she finally agreed to go out on this date with me, and she brought a friend. I was instantly not attracted to her. She was not good looking at all. She was goofy. She was like hiding her face all the time. It was just odd. But talking to this girl on the phone, she was just like this normal person. But in reality, in person, she was just awkward and weird. I think looking back at the time, I was so desperate that I would allow myself to go through with these crappy dates. I would invest the majority of my time trying to set up a date, trying to win over a girl's attention. It was consuming my life. So back to this girl, we went to her friend's apartment, and we were sitting there for a little while, and she goes, well, I have to go pick up my daughter. I'm like, she's never told me she had a daughter. So I stayed there with her friend in her apartment having this odd, strange conversation. And I waited for like 40 minutes for this woman to come back with her kid. Long story short, this woman was still involved with some guy. She never told me about this guy. She never told me about her daughter. After meeting in person, I think we both realized that we had really nothing in common. I remember going home after that date, just thinking to myself, what's the point? All these women that I talk to online are just full of shit. So you get depressed after a while after going through all that crap, but eventually you go right back to wanting to try to date a woman. I think if you're blue pill, purple pill, I just think that you're very willing to degrade yourself. Looking back, I was willing to do anything to get female validation, to be in a relationship with a woman. I was willing to degrade myself. One of the last stories here I'm going to share with you, I dated this one woman for a month. It really took a toll on me emotionally. I think at the time when I met this girl, I was very, very desperate. Probably the most desperate I ever been in my life. I felt this need to be with a woman that I was willing to do anything. Well, come to find out, she was in this weird type of belief system where her and her husband had this open relationship and they was willing to see other partners and they had a child together. And I still agreed to go out on a date with this woman. We had a lot in common. Again, we had this musical interest both of us shared. She actually was a musician on the West Coast for a long time. I think she was one of the first women that met my deep emotional needs to connect with a female. It was weird, but she was. It was nothing serious, but we enjoyed each other's company, and she was straight up with me, telling me that she had this open relationship with not just me, but with many other people. At the time, it kind of hurt to hear all that because I felt like I was falling in love with her. I was so desperate that I just kept going with it. I remember times when I would show up to her place and there would be another strange man leaving and I would be entering. I mean, like, you kind of say to yourself, what the fuck am I doing? But you can't help but following through with it when you're in this desperation mode, this blue pill mindset. You can't help it. After a while, her hippie lifestyle just kind of got really annoying. I mean, many times I had to sit there on the couch and watch her get high, and her friend from upstairs, this woman, she would come down and she would sit there and make out with this woman right in front of me. And you would think that would be awesome, but this other woman was not attractive at all. It was disgusting. And I just kept saying to myself, I got to leave this situation. This is insane. Eventually, things started breaking down and we just stopped contacting each other, and it was odd. So I think with all these weird and odd experiences with women, you kind of eventually find yourself. I realized that I'm extremely lucky that I didn't get any one of these women pregnant, that I didn't catch a disease, that I didn't have some disgruntled boyfriend come to my house and kick the shit out of me. So I kind of cringe a little bit when I see all this content on how to date women or what to do when you go on a date. It's kind of hard to watch another guy do that to himself, especially when you've experienced it.